Interesting news, something that we didn't see coming. Kamala made a VP pick, and it's not Josh Shapiro. It is a man that I didn't even know existed, which seems to be the trend in this election. Tim Walz is the VP pick to Kamala Harris, and everyone is asking the major question, who in the world is Tim Walz? He's been governor for 6 years in Minnesota. Apparently, he is very popular. This pick can, move the needle.
Let me just tell you guys that me personally, I was Shapiro crazy. I was big Shapiro fan. I really do feel like Pennsylvania is a must win. We needed Pennsylvania. We still need Pennsylvania. Shapiro has an approval rating over 60% in Pennsylvania as governor of Pennsylvania. You just need a couple points to get you that state. And I feel like Shapiro could have did that for us. I feel like that. Now that doesn't mean that I'm correct. We're gonna explore some other things today that, all these candidates, they go through a vetting process, right? Former Attorney General Eric Holder was doing Kamala's vetting process. And, maybe they ran into some roadblocks there that we'll talk about. I also don't think Tim Walz was a bad pick, a progressive pick, not radical liberal, not radical leftist, just a progressive pick that shows you that Kamala is ready to make changes for the better in her as president. It's a little bit of a step forward. She's not just a remnant of the Biden administration. It'll be Harris's administration. It'll be a step towards the direction that she's taking and what she's going to do.
What? Why don't we start off with this?
Tim Walz is a proven winner among rural voters, and he's been very successful in Minnesota, which is a state that Republicans are trying to put onto the battleground map.
Thank you, Minnesota.
Walz really gives this everyman persona. He's somebody who's very comfortable with farmers. He's also someone who can appeal to voters in the suburbs and the cities.
Hey, Minnesota Governor Walz here at the Great Minnesota Get Together.
The 60-year-old governor didn't begin his career in politics.
He's someone who worked as a school teacher for more than 2 decades. He also spent time in the military. So he really brings to the table a background of someone who had an entirely different life before he entered politics.
Walz was first elected to Congress in 2006, managing to unseat a 6-term Republican in one of the state's more conservative districts.
He was supportive of a number of issues related to agriculture. He also served as a leader on Veterans Affairs issues, given his extensive background in the Army Reserves. Walz was once given an A rating from the National Rifle Association. After the Parkland shooting in 2018, he quickly pivoted to support background checks, and the NRA disavowed many of his proposals.
After 12 years in Congress, Walz ran for Minnesota governor in 2018 as someone who could compromise with Republicans. He won by more than 11 percentage points.
Hello, one Minnesota.
Walz was reelected in 2022 and a year later oversaw a Democratic-controlled state legislature with a progressive agenda.
He helped get through a program to provide universal school meals for children. He was supportive of codifying abortion rights. He was supportive of the legalization of recreational marijuana. He was viewed as somebody who was very progressive on climate change, the environment, and also in promoting infrastructure spending.
Walz was criticized.
We'll end it right after this because it says he was criticized
for his handling of the civic unrest following the murder of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis in 2020.
I'm authorizing and talking to General Jensen to fully mobilize the Minnesota National Guard, an action that has never been taken in the 164-year history of the Minnesota National Guard.
Walz deployed the National Guard 3 days after Floyd's murder. In July, the governor signed a police reform bill banning the use of chokeholds in most cases and requiring other officers to intervene when another is using excessive force.
In the aftermath of George Floyd's murder, he faced some criticism that he did not act quickly enough to quell some of the violence that we saw on the streets of the city. There was criticism that he didn't quickly bring in the National Guard to restore order.
In recent weeks, Walz has
All right.
repeatedly used one word to describe Trump and
Oh.
his running mate, J.D. Vance.
Yeah, they're weird. And I am not changing that. I see Donald Trump talking about the wonderful Hannibal Lecter or whatever weird thing he's on tonight. That is weird behavior.
And it seems to have caught on.
By the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
So yeah, he was. Which I didn't know that whole term had come from him. So anyway, yeah. So these are a few things about Tim Walz. Obviously, there's a lot more we could get into with this video and stuff, but we could just stop there and just yeah. So it seems like Tim Walz has this attractiveness to him because not because he's so politically Tim Walz, the appeal politically for a Tim Walz VP pick is there you go. So is the fact that it seems like he can play that middle ground pretty well, you know?
Yeah, you kind of want to they say it in there. He's able to appeal to rural America. I don't know how to pronounce that word. I've never been able to pronounce that word. But rural.
Why does it sound like you saying Roro?
How you say it?
Rural.
Yeah, rural America. Yeah. Because we
sound like you have a speech impediment.
We haven't done as Democrats, now that we all on the Democrat boat, we haven't done very well in the rural sections of America.
It's like you won't allow yourself
But we have
because you won't give up the New York accent. This is how I talk. Like,
but we have done better in suburban areas, right? We've done better in city areas. Where we're losing ground is in rural areas. And can you not? Because try to get a point across. He does very well. He's every man's man, no homo. I don't even know how to say that without that sounding crazy. But he is he's like the guy especially if you're from like a rural town in America, he's like the dude you go grab a beer with after you milk a cow, you know?
Yeah. I feel like I need to say pause, but absolutely. Actually, if you don't mind, I would like to play a quick part of this other thing.
Pennsylvania 270+1 electoral vote may be incorrect in that Kamala, by reconsolidating the Democratic coalition, picking somebody like a Tim Walz who gets suburban people, I think, very excited. I think Democrats really like the idea that the straight talking dad, and he's one of the just plain weird. That's all they are. Now I'll save. I'm sure we'll have many fights over weirdness and all that in the coming months, but just thinking about the electoral, like who he excites. And I think there is if we think the swing coalition here, Kamala needs to win white men back at the same rate that Biden won in 2020. That's really why Joe Biden won the race. So you pick like the quintessential white dude from the Midwest, high school football coach and all of that, the straight talker. He's got a couple pounds on him, I guess, which is as American as can be. And you make him, like the number 2 on the ticket. Well, now we're not necessarily just playing the Midwest game and just assuming that the Sun Belt is gone. It could be that those same suburban white people who delivered Georgia and Arizona to Joe Biden in 2020, well, maybe they're back in play. So Kamala may actually have a path to the White House where perhaps she could lose a Wisconsin, a Pennsylvania, or a Michigan. But if you pick up Georgia, you can make up enough electoral votes. You can hold down the fort in Nevada, New Hampshire, places like that, and you could still get there, to 270. I think it's 279 is something like that. So I was playing a little bit with 271, and that kind of challenged my thinking a little bit. In the contra to the Josh Shapiro case, if her internal polls show a tight race in the Midwest, but a lot more fluidity in the Sun Belt, well, the Sun Belt then comes back into play. I had not assumed that, but it's possible that that's what her thinking was in her path to 270 here, where Tim Walz get those suburban people, keep them in the coalition. These are these people are rich, they have a lot of money, they love to vote, and they're obsessed with abortion. So excite them, turn out the vote, demoralize already Republicans, kind of in a little bit of a mess here. They're not really sure what to do, and they feel like they're on their back foot. They were so excited because they thought they were the only ones who were pumped up for the race. And now they're a little bit, trying to figure out their strategy in running here.
So, yeah, I feel like that was, something that, stood out to me. Some of those reasons were things that I didn't even think about. When we did that video where you brought up that map, and we did all the different, what if you win this one? What if you turn this state blue? All of those numbers. Something we didn't consider was the possibility of what someone like a Tim Walz could possibly bring to it. I still do think that, Shapiro was like but I think that coupled with the fact that, I also learned in this, I'm not going to play it, but, for the audience, it seems like Josh Shapiro might have some baggage that the Harris campaign just couldn't attach themselves to right now, with like 90 something days left in the election.